Stephen Bryce is the new head coach of the Regina Rams. Stephen, welcome to Crown Countdown U.
Thank you very much.
Well, you're proving that you can go home again. Once a Ram and once part of the Rams family. I guess you're always part of that Rams family, but it's been quite a road. Playing with the Regina Rams as a junior, then going to the NAIA, and then serving 15 years in high school football in California, 8 of those as a head coach at Etiwanda High School in California. Tell us about that long road that brought you all the way back to Regina.
Well, it's actually kind of a convoluted path that I took. I left Regina in the first place to go to Jamestown because I just felt that I had reached my physical peak and I just, as good as I could get. So I wanted to keep playing football. And I was offered scholarship, partial scholarship at least, to go to Jamestown College and play there. And I really enjoyed it. And I kind of got hooked on education and earned my biology degree. And went to a teacher career fair in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Got offered a job in probably almost every state because I was teaching biology and chemistry, so really high demand subjects. I thought I'd try California for 1 year and met my wife down there and decided to stay on a little bit longer. And I was very happy in the role as an assistant coach, and then the team that I was on kind of went downhill a little bit. We reached an 0-10 season in 2004, and the coach resigned, and I just made a decision that I'm either going to be a head coach or I'll probably step away for a little while. And I just wanted to kind of roll the dice and see what I could do myself and try to turn a program around. So I took over as head coach, and 2 years later we were league champions, and then next year after that we were defending league champions. So we back-to-back league champs, and I thought we did really, really well. And some of my reasons for coming back to Regina or coming back to Canada was just our daughter was born in 2012, and I just really wanted to have my daughters grow up around my family. My father passed away in 2006, and my mom and my sister and brother were still living in Regina. And I just didn't want to miss that opportunity of them growing up without family. So we had made the decision in 2012 to move the family back, and started the immigration process for my wife then.
Well, and this situation now that you move back to with the Regina Rams is a whole lot different than when you played junior. How much of an opportunity have you had to re-engage with what the team is now prior to taking this job, and what are the differences right across the board?
Well, I did get a chance to re-engage with a lot of the players because I was involved in some youth football programs here. There's we call the South Sask Selects, which is almost an all-star team, if you will, that we run, and we went down to Texas together, and there was probably 7, 8, 9 players, current players of the Regina Rams, that were helping coach that group. So I got to know a lot of the players and even some of the current assistant coaches that are on staff, and I just realized that the quality of people that are on this organization is exactly the same as what it was when I left here. I just feel like it was a homecoming. I just felt embraced by the community and the people here. And as soon as the job came open, my phone was ringing off the hook. So you need to apply. You need to put your application and resume in. So I did. I just thought, it's a long shot because that's a dream job, and CIS jobs don't come open very often. But I'd be kicking myself for the rest of my life if I didn't apply for this.
What about the level of competition in Canada West? Have you had an opportunity to re-engage in that? Because as we've seen in this past year, Canada West is now holding on to the Vanier Cup through what Blake Nill has done at UBC. Calgary is strong. Alberta has been building in the correct direction. Saskatchewan's just up the road from you, competing for Saskatchewan-based players. And Brian Dobie is always competitive in Manitoba. You have just thrown yourself right into a hornet's nest here, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I really wouldn't want it any other way. I felt the same way when I took over at Etiwanda in California. We were in one of the arguably the toughest leagues in the state of California, which is one of the best high school football places to be in the United States. So arguably we were in one of the most competitive high school places to be in the world, and kind of did the same thing. I'm not going to try to bite off from a little bite. Let's go ahead and jump right in and see what we can do. I did get a chance. I was at 3 of the home games last year. and I watched the U of S game that was televised last year. I'm impressed with the caliber of athleticism. I mean, it is it's a different breed of player that they get now. You know, we're 25 years on since I was here last time. It's a bunch of friends of mine and I were joking. It's like the guys are so much bigger now that all my old teammates would arguably not even make the team now. If it was the same as it is. So the competition here is really stiff. The Canada West competition is outstanding. You get some of the best football play in the country here, and I'm really looking forward to the challenge. I think that we've been blessed with being dealt with a really good hand, and I think we're going to be competitive.
Well, you take over a team that went 0-8 last year, but you know, I've been following this for quite some time, CIS football and Canada West football to be specific, and I can't think of a better 0-8 team, even though there was the blank in that one column. You've obviously had the opportunity to evaluate this team, both from the stands and now just taking the role of head coach. What strengths do you have to build off of on this team? I think a lot of it starts on the offensive side of the ball when you're talking about strengths, doesn't it?
It definitely does. I think that there's a depth at wide receiver, and I think the receiving core as a whole. I mean, they're all tall, excuse me, athletic-looking young men. I think we have one of the best and most competitive quarterbacks in Canada West, and Noah Picton. I think he can really get the ball down the field. He's an elusive player, and over and above all that, he's a highly intelligent player. And working with Noah in the first place, he reminded me of one of my previous quarterbacks that I worked with, Angel Santiago. They play exactly the same, and Angel went on to be a 3-year starter for Army. And I thought Noah reminded me a lot of Angel and very competitive in nature. Atlee Simon, I think, could be argued to be the best running back in the country. I think he has that ability to be the best. So I think on the offensive side, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of good things that we need to build upon. We just need to maintain some continuity and get some consistency on offense.
The consistency was not there on the defensive side of the ball, though. Sheldon Gray is now going to take over as your new defensive coordinator. Where were the weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball beyond the lack of consistency that was there? Because obviously there were some talented individuals, but the package just didn't come together for 60 minutes at any point.
Yeah, I thought in watching the defense play last year, it became evident to me that we got 12 guys on the field that fly around and try to make plays. But what happened during the games is they got worn down, and when they're playing against a team like University of Calgary, it became roughly evident that it looked like men playing against boys because we were just outmatched, probably 60 to 70 pounds per man across the line of scrimmage. So that was our weak point on defense, is we just couldn't physically match up with teams. There's two ways to answer that. We need to go out and recruit bigger, stronger athletes, and the players that are here, we need to get them bigger and stronger and faster. And that part's already been taken care of. These guys are working out extremely intensely in the weight room here. I'm super impressed with what they've done and how they've built from last year. And now we got to go out and fill a couple of key positions, and I think we're going to be able to do that.
Recruiting-wise, though, you start with one hand tied behind your back. You're very late in the recruiting cycle. I know that there was some work done prior to your arrival, and you've got some good talent to tap into in your own backyard in Regina. But how tough is it taking over a program that really has missed at least half a recruiting cycle this year, and maybe part of a recruiting cycle from the previous year during the transition between Frank McChrystal and Mike Gibson?
That might be the biggest challenge of all, is getting caught up on recruiting, because at any level of university football here in the States, the biggest job as the head coach is to be an effective recruiter. You need to attract the top athletes to come here. So you're right, I'm behind the 8 ball a little bit as far as that goes, but I mean, I'm working morning, noon, and night to kind of fill those holes in recruiting and shaking trees, and not only finding out what's available in our backyard, but even kind of trying to shake the trees south of the border a little bit too, because we're going to look high and low and try to find a couple of impact players that can come in and hopefully fill some key roles for us and make a difference.
Yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, is the various channels that you're going to work for recruiting. We've seen it in a few other CIS centers where there are some connections back to the United States. And obviously, after being there for 15 years, coaching at a high-profile level on the high school side, you must have some relationships that you can work with to bring players up here. How can you make the Regina Rams attractive to a potential American recruit I'm sure you can point to Mr. Hicks playing in the NFL as a start.
Well, that's actually the first thing I talked about with the assistant coaches here is if we're going down there to go after either a D1 bounce back or a junior college player who hasn't found a home yet, because the NCAA requirements, academic requirements, have become quite stringent with their 16 core credits that you have to have, and now they've upped it to a 2.5 GPA within the 16 core credits. There's a lot of outstanding athletes that don't qualify for NCAA that will qualify here. So there are athletes out there trying to find a home. We just have to find the right ones. And then I think that Regina will speak for itself. And I was talking to Sheldon about this earlier, Sheldon Gray about this earlier. Of all the kids that came in that we have on our recruit list, our commit list, every single one of them that visited here signed here. So when you visit Regina, you see the caliber of people here, the quality of the people that are here, and how quickly you get embraced by the culture that's here. And you see the outstanding facilities that are here at the university. It's not a tough sell. It is a beautiful place, beautiful campus with outstanding people.
The Saskatchewan Huskies up the road have a pretty good relationship with the Saskatoon Hilltops in terms of bringing players across from the Hilltops into the Huskies program in the last 2 to 3 years of their eligibility. Scott McCauley interviewed for your post, pulled himself out of that competition, but wanted to get the message across that the Regina Thunder and the Regina Rams really should be on the same page in terms of being cooperative with one another. What sort of recruiting road do you see moving forward between yourself and the junior team in that town, and even broader to the rest of junior football across Western Canada?
Yeah, I've developed a pretty good relationship with Scott. I was an invite coach for his evaluation camps this spring, so I was attending and helped to evaluate his offensive line on his camp. So I got a chance to meet Scott, and I really like him. I think he's a good guy, and I think he's a great coach. And I hope to continue our relationship and move forward, because that junior and CIS relationship that you have in one city, it really is, or should be, a symbiosis. I mean, we need to have this mutually beneficial relationship where players that we're looking for the similar kinds of guys, and sometimes they need to work on their grades. Well, you know what? Go tune up and work with the Thunder. And then same thing when they get guys that are close to the end of their eligibility with the Thunder, have a place for them to end up when they're done too. I don't want to see all of these graduates coming out of the Thunder going to Concordia and other places when we have a great opportunity for these guys right here in Regina.
Talk to me a bit about the student part of the student athlete. Obviously, you mentioned at the front of this interview how you got hooked on education. How important is it for you to stress the academics in all of this?
In my interview process, and when I did my press conference in the first place, I made it clear that academics is crucial. It's number one. That what's the point in spending your time playing CIS football and getting a role on a CFL team to play on average 3, 4, 5 years or seasons in the CFL, if you didn't meet your objective, your academic objective, and get that degree, then you really wasted your time. You have to go back and start from scratch. And you could even say the same thing about the NFL. The average career in the NFL is 3 years. You've cheated yourself, and you haven't met your obligation to those players as a coach unless you've helped them fulfill that requirement of growing up and earning that degree, so that you can do something with the rest of your life, and so they don't have to go work menial jobs because you've been used up by the football system.
If there's a program out there in the NCAA or the CIS that you would want to emulate or take some sort of inspiration from, is there one out there that you would look to kind of model your path for what you intend to do with the Regina Rams?
Yeah, I would say there's a whole bunch. I don't think there's much. I don't think there's much unique thought or much really anything new being created or designed in football. There's a lot of great coaches out there, and the one thing they all have in common is they're really good at stealing good ideas, and I'm one of them. I used to take my team down to USC practices a couple times a year, because they would have an open practice for high school players to get them to see and watch the intensity and the tenacity and ferocity that the guys play and practice with. Because that whole philosophy is, I can't ask you to practice soft and play hard. So as far as Pete Carroll instilled that mentality of competitiveness in every aspect of the practice plan, I really like that. And I think that's something that I want to, and I have in the past, adopted that for my teams is if our games are going to be 2.5 hours, our practices are going to be 2.5 hours. And if we want you flying around at 100 miles an hour in a game, you better be flying around at 100 miles an hour in practice. So as far as the practice philosophy goes, I really like what Pete Carroll was doing. As far as the actual strategy is, I really like the air raid offense, like Mike Leach. I've been to a lot of clinics, probably close to 40 clinics over 16, 17 years. Just what you do in the offseason down there. There's so many available in Southern California that you get a chance to meet and steal from some of the best minds out there in football. So I wouldn't say there's any one team that I would try to emulate. I think I'd try to take as much of the great things that Pete Carroll did. And I even got to know some coaches at San Diego State, Toby Ninus, and I got a lot of his recruiting philosophy. He's now the recruiting or the director of player personnel at Rutgers University, and I became good friends with him, and I learned a lot about the recruiting game from him.
And now that you're sharing a facility with a Canadian Football League team like the Saskatchewan Roughriders, do you see that same sort of level of cooperation in terms of bringing a team in to see the Saskatchewan Roughriders practice or to have that dialogue with a Chris Jones? I mean, when you're in the middle of your season, when he's in the middle of his season, obviously you're preoccupied with your own thing, but do you see an opportunity there for some learnings between yourself and the Riders?
Oh, of course I do. I think the Riders run a great organization. Chris Jones' reputation speaks for itself. I want to learn from the best, and I've been doing that in California, and why would I stop doing that now when they have a great coach here, coach in the Saskatchewan Roughriders? Of course I want to learn from them, and I think there's going to be ample opportunity for us to work together and collaborate, and I'm looking forward for those opportunities.
Well, the next step for you is spring camp, and it's rolling on you pretty quickly here. How do you get prepared to throw yourself into a season now that there's only so many days left on the calendar?
Well, I met with the team last night at 5:30, and we talked for about an hour together to get them to learn my philosophy and a little bit of my history. And you're right. I mean, that clock coming down to that camp is ticking real fast. And I told them that my number one job for them now is to surround them with the best possible people that I can. And I started off doing that. And I think that the Mark McConkey is a really bright young mind in football. I think that he's going to have a bright future. And same thing with Sheldon Gray, who was a finalist in this job hunt as well. I think those guys are outstanding. And now we're collaborating together to fill in all of the position roles on the team. And we're on our way. Can't give any names yet, but I think we're going to have an outstanding CIS coaching staff.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing how that staff develops. And Stephen, best of luck in Regina with the Rams. I know there's been some high cycles there and some low cycles over the years, but I think you've got a pretty good base to start building on, and you've got a very invigorated football community there behind you. So best of luck moving forward.
Thank you very much.